with a plenary session with the topic From Culture to Content, Platformization, and Inequalities in Global Cultural Industries. I would now request our esteemed panelists to come up on stage. We begin with Dr. Shomendranath Bera. Sir, can you please come? Professor Shabina Omar. Professor Manosh Pratim Goswami. Now I invite the chair of the session and our very own Professor Buroshiva Dasgupta to the dais. I will give a brief intro of our panelists before you. Let me begin with Dr. Shomendranath Bera, better known as Dr. Anjan Bera. He teaches at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, University of Calcutta. He has served as the head of the department and acting dean of the Faculty Council as well. He was director of the Center of Studies in Book Publishing of the university for several years. Professor Bera has authored a number of books and articles. He also edited the Global Media Journal, Indian edition, sponsored by the University of Calcutta. I request Dr. Minal Parekh to kindly come up on stage to felicitate Dr. Bera. Minal, can you stay back on the stage? Now I would give a brief bio of Professor Shabina Nishat Omar. She is the professor and head of the Department of English at Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose College, Kolkata, affiliated with the University of Calcutta. An accomplished academician and educational administrator with nearly 2 decades of experience, she has previously served as principal in charge of Milli Amin College and professor and head at Alia University. She has also been deputed as officer on special duty in the Directorate of Public Instruction, Government of West Bengal. Her expertise spans English, language studies, gender studies, curriculum development, research, teacher training, and educational leadership, with a strong commitment to social empowerment and social empowerment through education. Welcome, ma'am. Last but not the least is Professor Manosh Pratim Goswami. He's a professor and head of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication in Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. A very beautiful place, sir. An academician, researcher, author, and media trainer with over 2 decades of experience. His areas of expertise include film studies, advertising, digital media, corporate communication, media economics, art, and culture. He has previously taught at the Central University of Tamil Nadu and Indira Gandhi National Tribal University and has professional experience in advertising and public relations. Widely published in leading international journals, his research explores media discourse, digital analytics, ethnography, and contemporary communication practices. Professor Manosh Pratim Goswami. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Dasgupta. Sir, the floor is yours.
এটা কি ঠিক আছে? Now, can you hear me? Okay. We have three very eminent speakers, and the subject, let me sort of explain a little bit, because we face a lot of these terms in our media studies. Platformization, that's a new thing. I mean, also it's quite a tongue twister. But actually, when we entered into the new digital world, we were basically, we thought that we have democratized culture, you know. But in the process, what we found is we opened up the gates that everybody could participate in the interactive process and everything, which was not possible in the old media scene. But in the process, we found over a period of time that this actually was benefiting a very few creations, or it was kind of a disguised control through the, say, the digital the kind of algorithms that had, it's a kind of I mean, what I would say, a digital control that was very quietly introduced. And in the process, while we see this new kind of the media, what was happening is it universalized the entry of the media, but it created great inequality. Because what happens, like only a few, like for the people who have, say, viral content, it benefited only those few creators, not everybody. Things like how it changed, if we think in those terms, how the music industry changed. It's like we are now into, say, those, we call it 3-minute hookers. Or say the cinema, has become now very mathematical, just serials, mathematically planned serials. Or literature, it's just the plot-driven series. That's what we see. I mean, we hardly see the original kind of literature today. The visual art has become Instagram optimized kind of aesthetics. Or journalism, for example, it is more headlines, kind of a optimized, which is something which is outrageous. We talk about outrageous things in in journalism today. Now, this is a major change, and this is what platformization is. What it happened. We thought of universalization of culture, but now we have landed ourselves in the platformization, where you can say the culture has become just a possession of a few. I mean, the giants like the Netflix or the Amazon or the Facebooks and the Google YouTubes. That's what's happened. So we have our speakers here. They will, kind of being able to speak and elaborate on these ideas, how inequality has been introduced in our cultural understanding. So I will sort of invite Shomendranath in, because of the time constraints and everything, we will request everyone to limit their speech to just about 15 minutes, please. Not more than that. We will have to have a little bit of discussion also. So please limit your discussions to 15 minutes. Shomen.
Chair of the plenary session, Professor Dasgupta, and my learned speakers, co-speakers, my colleagues and friends. Good morning, everybody. First of all, after the brief elaboration of Dr. Dasgupta, first of all, I would like to thank the authorities of the Sister Nivedita University, the organizer of the 76th Annual International Communication Association Regional Half Conference 2026, for inviting me here to share my opinion with this distinguished audience. So far I know, such a conference of a global forum like ICA has never been held in Calcutta, perhaps not in any part of Eastern India. SNU Kolkata has made us all proud. This regional hub conference, as stated, seeks to promote fruitful dialogues on, I think we should all note it, communication and inequalities in context. I think this in context is very significant. I hope this event will have a lasting impact on media and communication studies and research in the region. Now, what is communication and inequalities in context? Communication and inequalities in context refers to how people's ability to communicate is shaped or impacted by social, economic, cultural, and political inequalities. It is not a standalone thing. And in a society, communication is not equal for everyone. The status quo itself is not, so liberal. Factors such as wealth, education, language, gender, caste, race, disability, location, and access to technology influence who can speak, who is listened to, and who has access to information. These are the factors that actually impact or influence this process. Now, let me now draw your attention to the topic of this plenary session. From culture to content, platformatization and inequalities in global cultural industries. The scope is, much bigger one, but it is not possible for anybody to concentrate on all the aspects of this subject. But see, from culture to content, the phrase from culture to content usually means transforming real-world culture into media that can be shared, consumed, or marketed as content. For example, if a dance trend becomes popular on TikTok, the trend itself is culture. A brand making a short video using that trend is content. From culture to content means converting cultural ideas, trends, identities, or behaviors into communicable media content. The phrase is often used in marketing, social media, strategy, branding, media studies, and similar other fields. And now shift from culture to content is now more than evident in this era of digital media. Art, journalism, films, music, and literature are increasingly treated as monetizable digital content. Success depends on clicks, engagement, and virality rather than cultural value. Also, this utterance has its own bias. We have to accept it. I accept it rather. Now, what platformization is doing? In the shift from culture to content, platformization is performing a central role. A central role that has to be noted. Platforms are becoming new spaces for cultural exchange. Platformization refers to the process by which digital platforms become the primary way that activities, services, interactions, or industries are organized and managed. Platformization happens when digital platforms or digital infrastructures such as Google, Amazon, Meta, or Uber become central intermediaries in shaping cultural production, distribution, and consumption. Now, key characteristics of the platformization, if we would like to identify, then platforms connect, at least some of the major important aspects are platforms connect different groups. It has capacity to do that, intermediation kind of role. Datafication, activities generate data that platforms collect and analyze. Algorithmic governance, algorithms influence visibility, recommendations, pricing, and decision making. We are all of us are aware of these factors. Now, network effects, the platform becomes more valuable as more users join. We are now living in the platform society, to quote Jos van Dijk, Thomas Powell, and Martin de Waal. We all know about this. Their very popular book, 2018, it was published, The Platform Society, Public Values in a Connected World. There are many other publications also, but they are the pioneers. Now, it will be an overstatement if we say that platforms today control almost, it will not be an overstatement if we say that platforms today control almost decisively the visibility of the content, audience reach, its monetization, algorithmic prioritization, content moderation. Traditional cultural industries are losing power to tech platforms, apparently at least. In this context, we should admit that despite its amazing technological capacity, digital platform is also not immune to existing economic, social, political, and cultural inequalities and disequilibrium. Digital platforms, despite its so prominent, evident capacities, are not omnipotent to brave through the status quo. The status quo, what you find, the economic inequality, these are also affecting all sectors of media and communication process. Algorithmic inequality. Algorithms prioritize sensational, emotional, and polarizing content. Serious journalism and regional cultural voices receive less visibility. Technology cannot, change it. Global inequality. Most major platforms are based on the global north, especially the USA. Countries like India become dependent on foreign-owned digital infrastructures. Largely, this is true. Platform imperialism leads to digital colonialism, and we'll go into the details, or platform imperialism. Now, Indian media increasingly are dependent or becoming dependent on platforms for traffic and revenue. News visibility is shaped by algorithms rather than editorial importance. That is what we are finding increasingly in our country. We have a long tradition of, independent journalism, at least pro-people journalism, at least partly, Now, who are being benefited? It is the mainstream practice, so-called. And in other words, it's a big monopoly media, backed by big money, is benefited. Media pluralism is being affected most. Now, press freedom threats are no longer only direct censorship to the press freedom by the state, by the government. It is imposed often through content suppression. At least no state is, or no governmental players are not responsible, it seems. But imposed by content suppression, demonetization, algorithmic downranking, advertiser pressure, shadow banning, etc., etc. Now we are facing, nowadays in this digital era, particularly journalists. If we go the mainstream literature also, international platforms also, forums are also criticizing. That is dual pressure we are facing. That is one from the state and one from platform companies, though they are not entirely unrelated. Independent digital journalism, who are being affected also. There are many various attempts of doing that, but financially and due to platform dependency, they have very little capacity to create any impact, substantive impacts. So platformization transforms journalism and culture into data-driven content ecosystems, weakening media autonomy and complicating press freedom in India. Platform algorithms, some of the important features, control that a person will watch and which content gets silenced, very actively. We do not know how algorithms work. It's very opaque. The system is very opaque. Yet we are compelled to participate either for a job or to maintain connection. The system has nothing that can be termed equal. It is complete power imbalance. Our everyday activity, from chats to the locations we visit, from the payments we received to the balance we have in our bank account, everything is not only under surveillance, but also being monetized. We are both consumers and products, in the social media. It is apparently user-generated content. Our data is being sold for sharper market segmentation and increase the speed of consumption. With the tools, simply. Yet, we think platforms are here for our empowerment, as if it is liberating us. There is always a paradox at every step of digital empowerment, whether it is CCTV or UPI technology or other platforms. However, the power of platforms is visible in the recent uprisings in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. You see, what should be noted that in the smaller democracies, in the smaller countries where democratic foundations are weak, platforms are creating more impact, they are more powerful. The struggles between the state and platforms are becoming prominent, whether over surveillance or data localization. But the situation is not same in big nations and where the ruling elites have greater control over the system. There are laws like the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. It tries to restrict the data gathering of global giants, but at the same time, it grants almost unlimited data mining capacity to state agencies, often at the cost of citizens' freedom. We all know the effects of surveillance capitalism in various parts of the world. A serious introspection is necessary, I suppose. Platformization is not omnipotent to protect citizens from corporate surveillance, state surveillance, and mob surveillance. A space full of fear is the breeding ground of inequality. We are concerned with the inequality, that's why. On the other hand, we have an attention economy where visibility is currency. It is often earned through extreme means. Creators perform for the algorithm through outrage, spectacle, confession, and self-humiliation, because intensity and novelty are what we get rewarded. Dignity is traded for reach. People from the margins are often indulging in dehumanizing acts just to get attention from urban elite. Platforms are erasing the space for innocent imagination also. Though imagination is a primary thing that gave people their modern rational mind and the ideas of democracy and citizenship. And if I'm allowed to say, I would like to draw your attention also to the resurgence of dominant paradigm, a kind of, technology itself is omnipotent, we are being told. It can do and undo anything and everything, but it doesn't happen in real world. Therefore, it is not wise to indulge in the tendencies like technological determinism. See, despite its immense capacity to communicate, digital platforms itself cannot bridge the digital divide. So very interesting is the expression in context, what I earlier told. The role of media and communication system needs to be assessed, whether it is digital or otherwise traditional, needs to be assessed on the factors such as how far it contributes to enhancement of communicational capacity of common citizens. Capacity building, in fact. This is of fundamental importance. Whether it is contributing to that process or not, that is the main point. And second, how far it contributes to reduce the imbalances in information and communication system. These are the main factors, I suppose, should be taken into consideration. So, with these few words, I conclude my deliberation and thank the SNU University from the core of my heart. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Shomin. He's more known as Anjun in the university. to keep within the time limits. He emphasized on the monetization process of this new platformization, if we could talk about, and how the return of, say, the dominant paradigm coming back, the old, method of the use of media through the technologies again. So we would invite the next speaker, Professor Sabina, and would request her to keep herself within the 15 minutes limit. Thank you.
I can focus, otherwise, ঠিক আছে? এটা দিয়ে হবে তো? Just this way না? ঠিক আছে, আগে এটা দাঁড়াও। না, ফার্স্ট হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। এটা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন তো সবাই? ঠিক আছে। স্যার এখানে একটু চালানো, এটা দেখো তো বাবা, এখানে একটু চালানো। এতগুলো টেকনোলজি। ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ। It's on. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, national scholars, international scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen, respected guests on the dais, moderator sir, my co-academic speakers, the authorities of Sister Nivedita University, the Pro-Chancellor, the Chancellor, and of course, Dr. Meenal Parikh, the Dean. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my views on a topic that is very close to my heart. Unlike the stalwarts on the dais, unlike Dr. Goswami, unlike Anjan Babu, unlike Professor Dasgupta, I am not a stalwart. But in the interdisciplinary scenario, in the undergraduate and postgraduate syllabi, as a mother of 2 young boys, I brace with this aspect of media and communication on a daily basis, in the home and in the classroom. So I do not have a very scholarly dissertation to present before you. I have some ideas that are lived through my experience. But before I begin, I would like to congratulate the department and the university for organizing an event of this magnitude on the theme of communication and inequalities in context. And the subtopic today is very relevant. It is culture to content, from culture to content, platformization and inequalities in global cultural industries. We've already had Professor Bera speak about what is platformization, what are cultural industries, and therefore I will not waste time. Allow me to submit before you very humbly that there are several new gatekeepers of content and communication today, and we are all aware, as parents, as teachers, as consumers, that these are TikTok, YouTube, WeChat, WhatsApp, various reels, various vlogs, and various blogs. These, my friends, are the primary channels of cultural production, and traditional publishing, traditional media, traditional broadcasting is being replaced with these every day, every hour as we speak. So as has been said before, the algorithm is changing and the algorithm is becoming data-driven, monetization-based, and algorithms are being curated. It is not an aesthetic creative. It is actually a data-driven modernization, monetization impulse. And in India, when we talk about the creator economy, we are projecting a possibility of reaching $100 to $125 billion by 2030. Now, this, as we all know, is the signal for a massive structural transformation. So what was the earlier myth? The earlier myth was that whatever is dominant is universal. And what was dominant was that it was always either Anglo-American or Eurocentric or whatever was the power narrative. These assumptions were projected globally. Today, we are compelled to understand concepts like precarity, creative labor, authenticity, that all these may have cultural conditioning, cultural dimensions, cultural implications, and may not rest as easily across all geographies, across all cultures. So there is no one yardstick for all, there is no one aesthetic for all, and what may be applied to Asia, Latin America, or Africa cannot be applied to Europe and America. And if we try to do one yardstick for all, there is a conflict, there is a friction, because the reality of living is very, very different all across the world. So today what we need, my friends, is a reality check that the infrastructure is inherently, manifestly, and very, very potently unequal. So there is an infrastructure of inequality where platforms are operating simultaneously as both marketplaces for cultural consumption and infrastructural settings that govern how culture is negotiated. And a very loaded word, negotiated, that means how you produce, how you consume, and how you distribute culture. Today we realize that the global North standards for authenticity, for the governance of content, for the negotiation of culture are very, very diverse. And the center is not the margin, although the margin can always, in flux, come and become the center. There is nothing that is free. Every form, every market tracking, every activity, every content access is taking away your most valuable asset in today's infotech world, and that is our data. It is extracted from the consumer, from the producer, from the creator, and from the distributor. So therefore, we must understand that what is needed today is an emphasis on the local. Because what can the local do? The local can reshape transnational technology. As Professor Dasgupta said in his inaugural address at the beginning of the panel, it is a technological world, and platformization goes hand in hand with technology. This technology enables us, persuades us, tempts us to multiply our frames of reference. We do not simply translate Western models anymore, we transcreate. So how does the local reshape transnational technologies? First, by decentering what we have taken as the default or the universal. That dismantling has to be done. Second is the local also becomes glocal, because it embraces your regional diversity, it embraces your underdeveloped cultures, it embraces and enhances all configurations shaped by history, policy and infrastructure. Why? Because the local is fluid, it is dynamic, it is ever changing, ever moving, with the periphery becoming the margin, with the periphery, I beg your pardon, becoming the center, and the margin being expanded. So therefore, the local is in continuous interaction, and with the realities surrounding it, it is reshaping transnational technology. If I give you a very small case study, I apologize for the missing word why. There are 2.5 million active creators in the Indian scenario. There is a consumer influence of $350 billion in annual consumer spending decisions. There is a $125 billion projected value by 2030. What are the drivers, my friends? The drivers to this transformation are, again, technology, affordable digital penetration, low-cost data, a shift from celebrity influence to cultural influence. There is a continuous redefining of who holds cultural authority in India. Is it the celebrity? Is it the commoner turned influencer turned star? So in the platformized age, labor and precarity go hand in hand, because digital creativity is like a gig labor. You have different streams of income, unpredictable algorithms, platform dependence, cultural labor. Boundaries are dissolving between personal branding, community building, and digital labor is struggling. The struggle of each content creator, of each cultural worker, is different. It is not universal. It is shaped by regional political economies, labor law, and social safety mechanisms in place. Knowledge used to be colonial. Again, something Professor Dasgupta spoke about, that there is something called a coloniality of knowledge. It was a site of a power relation. The theories, the methodologies were dominant. They produced a geopolitical vantage point, but today we have a movement towards decolonized research, non-Western studies, indigenous studies, foundational assumptions of the field itself. And to do this, there are many students, many scholars in the room. There are many teachers in the room. To do this, ladies and gentlemen, we must engage the global with the local, making it a local power relation. The local should not be pushed to the background, and the global should not be taken as a universalist paradigm. So what I humbly submit before you as educator, academician, teacher, parent, and consumer of cultural communication is that the platforms are not neutral. They are sites of discourse and contestation. They have assumptions about culture, value, and identity. So in this context, we must recognize local contexts, local experience, and use that to build more equitable digital cultural spaces. Our responsibility is what is happening in this conference today. Thank you, Meenal, once again for conceptualizing this. There is a shared responsibility as researchers, creators, citizens, that there should be a critical interrogation of all platforms that are defining the boundaries of our shared culture, be it global, be it local. Let us make it global. That is the need of the hour. And as I say, it has been very well said, Mile sur mera tumhara, to sur bane hamara. This is a call for united action. This is a call for constructive action. This is a call for a renegotiation, a rethinking, and above all, my friends, a reclaiming of our own cultural space. I leave you with these thoughts. Thank you, Namaskar, and Jai Hind.
So thank you, Sabina Umar. I mean, she was very humble, saying that she was not not a scholar, not a an expert on this, but she spoke. I mean, more than an expert on these issues, and she was very clearly admitting that how the new platformization is taking away the lived experiences of creation, and it becoming, as Shomendranath explained, the re-emphasizing the monetization of the process and making it very mechanical. And she also gave some, suggestions of how to come out of it by localizing the, the attempt, decolonizing the Western method or the Western infrastructure that runs through platformization. So the relief or the what we have seen from, or what maze that we are in, that suggestion also needs a thought process. So our next speaker is Manush Pratim Goswami, and I would request him also to keep within 15 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate Sister Nivedita University and ICA for organizing this seminar, this conference here in this Kolkata. And ever since I came to this place, I could meet a lot of veteran people who are, here to deliberate on different issues. And in the next 3 days, I mean, today we are into second day, tomorrow also we have. So definitely we will have a lot of deliberation, and that will definitely help in the enrichment our knowledge. So I would like to thank SNU and ICA again, and Professor B. Sanjay, veteran educationist, and he has been into administration also for a long time, and this time he has initiated ICA here. I'm thankful to you, sir, for inviting me. And Professor Minal Parikh, he is organizing this conference. Thank you, madam, for inviting me. And we have Professor Minal Chatterjee, who is also a veteran educationist. So thank you very much for advice quite often you give me. While in the morning you are talking something about platformization during the breakfast table. And Professor Jaya Chakraborty and other faculty members who are present over there. And Professor Borasova Dasgupta, and Professor Sumendra Bera, and Professor Sabina Umar. So definitely I'll stick to the timeline that you have given, but I have seen that whatever being talked already, maybe somewhere I will also coincide, and she has already deliberated something about other aspect of platformization. My focus will be a little different. I don't say completely different. Even the topic is from culture to content, platformization and inequalities in the global cultural industries. But my focus will be a little bit on how digital platforms are replacing culture, creativity, access, and power globally and in India. And key ideas. It's been 31 years ever since internet came. Now, internet came to India in 1995, and today we are into 26. So 31 years, so many changes have taken place. And previously, if you see, the culture, it was circulated through traditional media like radio, print, and films, or maybe a few other. But today, when you see, culture moves through digital platform, which are basically having few parameters which we need to keep in mind. One is they rank it, they recommend it, they monetize it, and they measure the content. If your content is fit to that, definitely it will get publicity or it will get viral. If it is not, it may not. So secondly, culture is no longer about artistic expression, which used to be a primary thing, now it's a secondary thing, but it's all about platform power, digital labor, and economic control. If you have got economic control, then definitely it will be circulated. And this shift redefining the ecosystem, how culture is distributed, gets visibility, earns revenue, and who control the access. This is actually happening nowadays in this ecosystem. And it is increasingly turning the content into platform logic. So platform logic is more important than the creativity, and creativity is shaped by platform logic. So we have to follow the platform logic to be visible, to monetize. And sir has already said what is platformization. I would like to add a little into that. Platformization refers to growing influence of digital platforms over production, circulation, monetization of cultural goods. And it is not a technical change. We need to understand that this is not a technical change. There is a structural change also taking place here. And the platforms now shape the creative choices through its algorithm, engagement metrics, how it is being appreciated in terms of likes, maybe share, in terms of comment, that are getting more important. Monetization rules are also there along with, and visibility system also. So in simple terms, platforms do not just host culture, but they actively shape it. That means we have to do it according to the need of the platform. Already previous speaker said that there are two important terms nowadays quite popular. One is basically filter, the other one is ecosystem. Suppose if you fit into that ecosystem, it will come to you again and again. Now, if you go by certain statistics, how it is important, like culture and creative industry is very huge. It's a very important economic force. And if you go by UNESCO estimate, culture and creative industry generate around US dollar 2,215 billion annually. And most importantly, there is a huge number of people also engaged in it. That number is around 29.5 million people worldwide. That means it's a big, big economy. And if you go by the creative economy, it contributes across the country around 0.5% to 7.3% of the GDP. So it's a very, very significant number. And sometimes, and the workforce is something around 0.5% to 12.5%. So if you see the workforce also, it is also a very, very big number. So we cannot take it lightly. This is very, very important topic, very, very, issue to be deliberated. And if you go by the statistics, like United Conference on Trade and Development, that is UNCTAD, it says creative services. Creative services means marketing, design, and software development. Worldwide export is something around US dollar 1.4 trillion in 2022. And if you talk about the creative goods, which include basically print, books, and video games and all, export is around US dollar 713 million. So that's a very, very big number. So that's why we need to discuss topic like this and what are the measures we can take it so that our creativity will be also visible across the world. And now this figure shows that that culture is a major part of the world economy, it's not a marginal sector. And how platform is reshaping the culture. For example, platform usually promote content that is frequent. The content should be frequent. So one creative person, he has to make it frequent. Again, it should be short. For example, a film in India is 3 hours generally. Now we have to make a reel of 30 seconds, then only it will be visible, and it will be researchable and engaging. If it is not engaging, so people will not look at it, and possibility that the product will be not visible much. And creator now need to think about market and analysis. The important point is here, a creative person who is basically into, say, making something, but now he has to think about the market as well as see the metrics. If he doesn't do it, maybe his product will be not visible. That is important. And success of creativity is dependent on what's time, how much time people have spent on that particular video. Already, sir has said that attention is a currency right now, attention economy, and how it is being shared and who has shared it and how many shares we got and likes. That is important, and retention and platform visibility is definitely important. Which particular platform is visible, that is very, very important. And artistic value is not enough. Content must also suit the algorithm. That means we are dependent right on algorithm. We have to make the content according to the algorithm. That is becoming more important. The creativity is a secondary thing right now. And result is cultural economy is shaped by completely platform design. Now, where is the inequality? No doubt, platformization creates opportunities, but also it also shapes. And big platforms and media outlets have a greater control and searchability, visibility, and revenue. For an example, when you talk about any of the popular, say, social media, Facebook, it is American. Instagram, it is American. X is American. We do not have our own platform. If you do not have, then probably we have to follow the rules set by them only. And secondly, small creators, they have got limited power, and cultural economy appears open but remain structurally unequal. It looks very open, but it's not actually structurally unequal. And these inequalities may be dependent on geography, language, class, infrastructure, and digital skills. So that way it is changing, it is evolving. I don't know what will happen next, but before it happens, something very substantial, we have to think about it, and what are the things that we can do it. Maybe I will talk about a little bit. And now if you go by the ownership and market concentration in the world, around global book market is dominated by five major players. They are Penguin, Random House, HarperCollins, Hachette, and Macmillan and Simon Schuster. These are the five players. If you see, none of the Indian player is there. And if you see the film also, it is by Disney Universal, Warner Brothers, Sony, Columbia, or Paramount. There is no Indian, so that means they will also ask how to do film. They will also control us. And when it comes to music, we have got Spotify, Apple Music, Tencent Music, and Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. None of the Indian is there. And concentration of power is also within few players. So it's something like cultural imperialism is coming back, I believe. We have to do it according to their need. And if you see the global scenario of inequality, the streaming platform, they are actually generating 67.3% of the global music revenues, and playlist algorithms and recommendation now shaping it up. They are providing us music based on our behavior on online platforms. Now, we are seeing only one side of the coin. Maybe we may not be able to see the other side of the coin. May have many films being released, but we can't see because the platform is saying you should watch this. So we are basically controlled by platforms. And large artist team can better manage promotion and short-form content. But when it comes to a small player, it's very, very difficult for them to make a very good production because they do not have much money. So their things will be not promoted much, but those who are basically rich, they will be promoted much. And when it comes to Indian perspective of creative economy, we can see India is one of the largest, have got largest, say, social media users here. And platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime Videos, Jio Hotstar shapes our Indian. Fortunately, we have got one Indian, that is Jio Hotstar. And if you see, these particular platforms are basically, talking about music, film, news, memes, and political discussion. There are many topics they are not being discussed or maybe not being given importance, but what is actually consumed, that is only being given importance. And therefore, what I believe, There is a need of policy implication, need rules and regulation on competition and transparency and fair play. And cultural institutions need to promote digital skills, local creative system. Already Madam has said, vocal for local. That means we need to upskill or maybe skill the local players, local people, so that they will have skills and they will be able to promote their own product. And now, as an educationist, also we need to promote research on algorithm, ownership, and infrastructure and labor. That should be emphasized. And policies must safeguard regional languages, smaller cultural communities, and by cultural diversities must be also given importance. And that way, probably, we need to have some kind of policy implementation in order to promote our culture. Otherwise, it will be like cultural imperialism. Only the big players will be able to control. They will control us. We have to make our content according to their need. If it is 30 seconds, we have to make 30 seconds only. And for visibility, they will also set certain standard. We have to follow it. Probably that will control our creativity. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manush Pratim. What he said was some of the points which were already referred to by the previous speakers, that the platformization doesn't just host culture, it shapes culture. It is bringing in structural changes. And naturally, while others talked about the dominant paradigm, he explained, he was more critical, saying that it is the cultural imperialism that we saw earlier, the imperialism that is coming, taking over by the tech giants, which is today controlling the world itself. So we are more or less agreed on the main points that we discussed today, all the three speakers. So we don't have much time. So if there are one or two questions, please do ask. So the speakers, if you have a particular speaker to ask, please do. So anyone? Would like to ask.
Is there anyone who wants to ask any question? Yeah.
If
7. Juganto, 7.
Hello. My question, not question, just a remark to Professor Goswami means, sir, I'm here. Thank you for your deliberation. And there is another big platform that we have not discussed in this particular forum, and that is the Scopus, means wherever you are, whenever you are doing any research, you are doing any publication, unless and until it is indexed by quote unquote scopus, so your scopes are very limited. So what is your take on this?
Yeah, may I know your name, please, sir?
My name is Sanjay Sengupta.
Thank you, sir. It's a very important point. Now, academics, this is another challenge. We have to have our paper published in index journal. If it is not, you are not visible. If you are not visible, the so-called, assessing organization will not find your paper over there. Maybe it will also affect in your promotion and all these things. Definitely, this is another. But here we are talking about mainly entertainment, which my say speech. But that is definitely there. Maybe we can have other deliberation, maybe one more deliberation on how it is going to affect the academic circle. Yes, absolutely right, sir. Thank you.
Well, any other questions? Please?
Any other questions? Okay. Then I'll call Minal to the stage once again to give out the certificate. And Sanjay sir. Sir, please come. And after that, we can have a group photo. Okay. Sanjay sir, please come, sir.
Former director. Thank you.
Just move aside. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm seeing Saturday. Saturday has got his team. I've got a jersey also this time to wear with sharps and the supporter and all that stuff.
We'll have a quick tea break. We'll begin in another 10 minutes. It's a very short interactive session, the next one. It's around for 20 minutes, and after that, we'll break for lunch. After lunch, we come back for the next plenary session. So, all of you, can you kindly join us for some tea outside? And let us come back in 10 minutes. Can I request some volunteers on stage so that we can set up the stage? Housekeeping? All of you please remain seated in the auditorium. We are beginning right away. দুটো চেয়ার ওই ভিতরে ঢুকিয়ে দাও, ওইদিকে ঢুকিয়ে দাও, বার করতে সুবিধা হবে পরে। সম্রাজ্ঞী, পেন ড্রাইভ। এখানে তোমাদের পেন ড্রাইভটা আছে, নিয়ে দিয়ে দেবো। হ্যাঁ, তো নেক্সটটা যদি কোনো ইয়ে হয় সেজন্যই আমি বলছি, যদি দরকার হয়, যদি কোনো প্রেজেন্টেশন থাকে তাহলে কি করব। Good afternoon. We move on to our next session, which is an interactive session with the topic Gender Inequalities in Policy Decision. For the session, I would like to invite our esteemed speaker, Ms. Charu Pragya, onto the dais. 5 minutes? Okay. Okay, we'll wait for 2 minutes. Those who are outside having tea, can we have our volunteers requesting them to come in fast? Welcome you once again for the next session. I'm sure that everyone has had their tea break. They're all energized and they're back because we'll have a very energetic session now. For the session, we have with us Ms. Charu Pragya. I was just talking to her. I was asking her how does she feel only 24 hours that we have during the day with so much of work. As I invite her onto the stage, let me give a brief introduction about her. Ms. Charu Pragya is a lawyer, politician, and a passionate social reformer. Ms. Pragya is a crusader for women's rights and runs free legal and aid centers for women across India. Her work has helped build a network of lawyers who provide free of cost legal assistance to those in need. With her roots in rural Uttar Pradesh and her feet in urban New Delhi, she works to bridge the social justice gap between the rural and urban India. She also organizes training workshops and legal awareness camps for women and youth across the country. She has an interest in environment, sustainable development, education, and agri-tech, and is engaged with various social entrepreneurship initiatives, especially for women. She holds a BLS LLB degree from Government Law College, University of Mumbai. Charu is also a fellow of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung School of Young Politicians, alumni of Australia-India Youth Dialogue, and has completed Oxford Innovation Leadership in Public Policy course. She represented India at the Madrid Forum on Democracy, where 35 nations were represented, and has presented a lecture at the Election Bridge Conference in Myanmar. She is also on the governing body of Ramanujan College, University of Delhi, a panel member of CBFC, Central Board of Film Certification, and has won medals at the international and national level. Please hear me in pistol shooting. In her free time, she loves traveling and exploring new places and cultures, reading, writing, and working to make our planet a little bit more green. I welcome Ms. Charu Pragya on the stage. Please, ma'am, can you come? Quite a storied bio to read. And I invite BP Sanjay sir to, sir, can you kindly come on stage to felicitate ma'am? And I invite Dr. Minal Parekh, who's the chair for the session. The floor is all yours, ma'am.
So very good afternoon to all the guests of honor present today. Since it's been 1.5 days, we are talking about the topic communication and inequalities in context. So we thought that it's very important that we talk about policies also, since the gathering is mostly of scholars, students, and we are going live on every platform. So then I thought that why not we bring Charu and she can speak about the policies regarding this topic, that the theme that we've chosen for our conference this year. So थोड़ा थोड़ा हम लोग हिंदी भी बोलेंगे, चलेगा ना? So since Charu is very popular, I see her on all the news channels, mostly talking about the policies. So I thought that yes, as a maybe not a journalist, but then she's very close to the fraternity of journalists, and she's always there in front of media talking about these topics only. So we thought that what could be best than bringing her here in an academic environment, because लोगों को लगता है कि जो मीडिया में बात करते हैं या जो पॉलिटिशियंस के बीच में बात करते हैं, उनका जो कनेक्शन होता है वो यूथ, यंग स्कॉलर इनसे कम होता है. सो आई थिंक दैट लेट्स ब्रेक द मिथ. आई थिंक टॉकिंग अबाउट पॉलिसी इज इम्पॉर्टेंट हियर. सो प्रज्ञा, ओवर टू यू.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you to Dean Ma'am and the entire university for giving me an opportunity to be here today. Extremely delighted. I love Kolkata. And आपकी वजह से मुझे आज आने का मौका मिला. But let me begin by saying this. I love the way you framed the topic. You are talking about gender inequalities in policy decisions, not in society. You're not discussing the inequalities that exist in our society. And I think this is why our conversation is going to be very meaningful, especially with someone who specializes in communication. So briefly, I have this idea that it's very easy to make a policy. Let it exist in government files. Where the real work is implementation of that policy. And implementation cannot happen without communication. So whichever policy you pick up, it is only as successful as the communication strategy behind that particular policy. मैं आपको examples बताती हूँ. If you remember the polio drive, vaccination, the communication was so strong. All of us grew up watching that one advertisement on television, Do Boond Zindagi Ki. We all remember that, right? That policy of making sure that every single child in our country is given polio drops became successful only because of the communication behind that entire policy. And the same holds true even today. मैं बहुत पुरानी बात कर रही हूँ, but today when we are talking about policies which center around girl-child education, policies which talk about menstrual hygiene, all of them are successful only when the messaging and the communication behind it is extremely strong. So thank you, ma'am, for making an entire generation of young people strong in their communication, and I'm sure they will contribute to society building, nation building in their own way. And हम पता है, when we talk about policy, I don't think this is different in any part of the world. It's pretty much the same everywhere, because how is the policy made? Usually it is gender blind. It is not gender neutral. It is gender blind. There is a default citizen which is picked up, and that default citizen is used as the template for every policy that needs to be made. But that default citizen, more often than not, is a man. And I want to get into this with examples. May I? So, for example, when we are doing urban planning, when we are planning cities, when we are discussing something as simple as the number of stops a bus needs to take in public transport, even that kind of a policy differs for a man and a woman. A man's travel is going to be home, work, home, whereas a woman's travel is probably going to be home, school, work, market, picking up a child from class, visiting a relative, back home. So how many stops can you add to a particular bus route is more relevant for a woman than it is for a man. There are numerous examples. And while we are forging ahead very strongly when we say we use technology, the penetration of technology is making the world a lot more gender neutral, a lot more gender equal. I think sometimes technology is magnifying that bias instead of finishing that bias. And that magnification of bias needs to end by making sure more and more women are a part of conversations, are a part of companies, are sitting on that decision-making table. Because technology learns from us. It is not independent of us. AI, for example, learns from us. But if you go and ask your ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI you're using, ask them to make a human cooking, I assure you that human is going to be a woman cooking. And then if you ask that same AI to make a picture of a human at work or an electrician at work, for example, that picture is going to be of a man. So this bias exists in technology because it exists in those people who are training that technology. So it's very important that women exist in every single decision-making room. What is being discussed is what policies are going to be based on, and whatever policies are going to be based on is where all the funding will go. So when we want to create a world which is better, where 50% of the population is taken along, women have to be on every single important dais, on every single important decision-making table.
I think that when the government decides a policy or a group of people, officials are sitting and deciding policies, do they consider this? Like keeping women in mind, creating policies? And what we see nowadays, there's this concept, that women are not safe because it's all over social media. This is my personal thought. I would say that the situation had been similar earlier. It's just that social media is putting forward it more prominently. People are talking about it more. There's a platform where people can speak, they can talk, they can share their experience, but it has been there. And with this new generation, what we are calling the Gen Z or Gen Alpha, I think they're sharing so much of experience on social media. So do you think that with this feedback which is coming from this digital media, and here I would just like to add the digital divide also. There's a section of people who exist, have the power to express. There is a section which cannot because of the digital divide, because everybody does not have the power of internet, the power of accessibility. So do you think that the policies should be or are being done keeping this all in mind?
I think so, ma'am. Also, a lot has changed in the last 10, 12 years in our country. Because there was a time when it was known that a woman can only be a beneficiary of a particular policy. A woman will only be the beneficiary of a welfare scheme. Welfare schemes were designed around women. After that, the government started recognizing them as stakeholders. There was a time when there was recognition of the fact that women in bloc bring changes. Women in bloc, when they raise their voice for something, it changes the direction a policy is taking. And now today, we know that women are stakeholders, women are becoming decision makers. Yes, it's not as rapid as we want it to be. It's not as quick as we hope it would have been. But at the same time, in the last 1 decade, have seen this constant shift. So we are no longer just beneficiaries of a policy. Now we are the ones who are shaping and designing that policy, and that will make all the difference. And yes, women do feel unsafe, and it's again a policy gap, and it is a policy gap which exists because the world around us has not been designed keeping us in mind to that extent. For example, if a road is dark, it doesn't worry a man as much as it would worry a woman, or it would worry a parent when their daughter is crossing that particular road because it's not well lit. So every simple thing comes back to the fact that too much of our world is designed in a way that women were not the primary people which were kept in mind. I'll give you more examples. When a drug is being tested, all the side effects of that drug are generally tested on men. But a woman's body is very different. It responds very differently to medication. Another example, when dummies are tested for car crashes, those dummies are made usually in the size of a man or a child. A woman is not in those testing dummies usually up till recently. And that means that if there were to be an unfortunate car crash, there has not been any contingencies in place because a woman's body is going to be very different. The way she will get injured, even internally, is going to be very different. But all of this is changing now, and thank God for that, because all the change, like I said, it begins with communication. And today, communication has come to our fingertips. All of us who have a phone in our hands have become able communicators. We have become people who can positively convey concerns, and I am talking about positive convey concerns. I'm not even discussing the trolls. I don't want to discuss the people who want to amplify only the problems without coming up with a solution. See, now we have the concept of gender budgeting. Now we understand that there has to be a certain amount of money which is set aside for concerns of women. And this has started happening. For example, this year in our country, gender budget has been the highest ever. It's over 9.5% of our GDP, which is a very big amount. The amount goes up to 5 lakh crore. And more than 50 ministries and departments of our government now present a gender budget too. They make sure they figure in the fact that how much of the money that is being spent is used for the welfare of women, and it's used for policies which are going to benefit women. And in the days to come, I'm very confident this conversation, this communication, this messaging behind everything that we are doing is going to translate into a space which is not gender blind, but genuinely gender neutral.
You lay a little stress on the role of media in this, since we are all media professionals here, either in academics or in industry. So what do you think the role of media in this equality? And the theme is in context, so that it's like open end. You really don't know where this inequality will go, and it's like, though we are talking about gender right now, but there are so many inequalities which exist. What do you think that the role of media is today? Media as a whole, I'm talking.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. Inequalities exist more at intersections. So imagine every single intersection where the problem gets even more grave. For example, a woman who comes from an affluent family will have lesser troubles than somebody who comes from a background which is still struggling for the very basics. And the media amplifies certain things in a particular way, yes, but the media also sensationalizes, honestly. And I work in that space. I'm on national television every single day. I'm having a discussion on everything. I think that the media needs to temper itself a little bit. Everything cannot be sensationalized. Everything cannot just be a game of TRP. Everything cannot be a reel which is going to go viral, and sometimes that tends to happen. And when you are looking at that virality, I think you're also looking at a space where instead of having a constructive discussion on an issue, you want to amplify it in a way where you're just grabbing eyeballs and not looking for solutions. That needs to change. Media needs to become more serious again, and this I'm saying this for social media as well. It's just so easy to be anonymous on social media, say certain things, start a campaign, and you do it anonymously. But what is the role behind it? And I want to say this to young people. This is so important that we understand the difference between activism, which is great, but activism is hollow without some advocacy behind it. So what's the purpose of your activism? Is your activism equal to just sitting on a street giving a dharna? Or is your activism a space where you say, let's put a white paper together, let's bring these constructive criticisms together and find solutions for it collectively and give it to our local legislators. Let's just give it to an officer who's got the power to change it. Now that is good and positive activism. But activism which is just saying, hum to dharna denge, hum to halla machayenge, that I think is not good for society, and that media also needs to stop glorifying, stop amplifying, because what's the cause behind it? You know, it's so easy to say this went wrong. And I'll be very apolitical when I say this. I'll give you examples. Recently, there was this NEET fiasco. And everything is being done to contain it, control it, hope that it never happens in the future. The solution that is being sought by a section of society is that resignation करा दो minister का, ठीक है, but resignation करा दो minister का, is that going to result in zero paper leaks tomorrow? Or policy changes, making sure that the leaks are being plugged, going forward, the same patterns are not repeated, better security is in place, better punishments are in place, is that going to fix the problem? So this is my question to young people. If you want to be an activist for a right cause, absolutely you must be. But don't raise your voice in an echo of the person next to you without understanding that you can bring about a change only when you put some constructive suggestions also. The country is yours as much as it belongs to the government. You've chosen your government. So give constructive suggestions. Don't just be someone who wants to sit on the streets and say, we will bring about change, and this matters for media as well.
Let me talk about some policy decision making or changes that we can talk about to the younger generation, keeping gender into the center, that things that need to be taken care of, need to be spoken about, need to be thought about, need to be reiterated, and we put these platforms across where people can, because I think that it's not about gender, it's just about man and woman. Today, gender has gone into many communities, what we call as LGBTQ community. So it's very sensitive, it's very deep now. So policy is one, and also the level of shyness, the society around us, where we are shy to talk about it, we are shy to express. That way, there are times where these social media platforms do help you, because you do not have a friend, you do not have someone to talk to, times where your parents also don't understand you. So keeping all these in mind, would you like to share something more on developing policy for these kind of issues, and where we can talk more about areas that we can talk more about on certain platforms, and if you could share your views on that?
You know, I'll use the example of a past policy, and it's such a simple example. It is so simple that every single woman, every single month has menstruation. Every single month, every girl is on her period. But nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to discuss it. That very sign of womanhood, the very thing which fertility signifies, instead of it being something special, something to be taken care of, it became a topic of taboo in our country. And it's been like that for decades. Sanitary napkins were wrapped in newspapers or in these black polythene bags. And you know, when this struck everyone, when it struck everyone from a policy point of view, it happened during COVID. So in COVID, when there was a lockdown, and everything was regulated, everything, even getting basic ration, you had to make an effort for. There was massive migration across the country, and food and water and medication and all these things were taken care of. That one thing nobody thought to take care of was sanitary napkins for these women. Their menstrual hygiene was not even in the list of essential things that people need, and everybody's need is different. It is then that this conversation started. I think after that, it is that our Prime Minister spoke about sanitary napkins from the ramparts of the Red Fort. And then I now believe that this has become a conversation which is normal. Now, less people are shy about discussing their periods or issues with menstruation. More and more people want to be a part of this conversation, because even today, 60% of women in our country don't have access to menstrual hygiene products. And how sad is that? 21st century developing India, and 60% of women did not have access to any of this, but that is being changed now because of observing carefully that there was a policy lapse. When we talked about essentials, we left out essentials that only women need. And as you spoke about the LGBTQI community, there need to be more safe spaces where people can come and own up to what they need, have a frank discussion as to what is missing around them. Government will listen. The government will listen, but at the same time, the citizens have to be constructive when they put these suggestions forward, and that's the only point I'm trying to make again and again.
I think talking about it more and more would make the audience also more comfortable, because when the younger generation feels that there's no space to talk, there's no space to express, and that is why, you know, the anger wents up, and probably they choose whatever they want to choose to communicate to the higher authority. So more we talk about it, I think it's going to dilute.
Well said, absolutely. And you work with so many young people. I'm a mother to a teenager. I also work quite a lot with young people. I think we have to become that safe space where everyone can come and speak to us. And that can only happen when we are not just hearing, we are listening. We need to listen to understand. And when we listen to understand, we will not judge them. We will understand where are they coming from, what is it that is a problem in their lives. And sometimes we will have to tell them that, beta, you're wrong here. And sometimes we will also accept and say that, no, she's not wrong or he's not wrong, and we need to understand better. But all these doors open only through conversation, only through forums where you can step up and talk about what's in your heart. And it doesn't always have to be online. It has to be in spaces like, you know, your colleges. It has to be in spaces where you feel you can write a letter to your local authority and say, this is lacking, or this is a problem, or this is where I'm suffering. Because law can step in only when the citizens are aware. See, there is a law for everything, but the problem is how many people are aware of the law that exists to protect you. There is a law which protects every aspect of human life, but किसी को पता ही नहीं है, legal awareness ही नहीं है, policy awareness ही नहीं है.
Yeah, so more we talk about it. One question which is out of the context of this, since smartphone, or what we call as the digital accessibility to the youth, is to this large extent, do we need to control that, or do we need to put some kind of filters, policy filters, so that what youth sees and what youth consumes is taken care of? This is absolutely a personal question from a mother or from a faculty who's been handling with these Gen Z students, and also of 60 plus parents who are at home. They are watching AI videos, they are watching a lot of content because they're all alone at home, they don't have anyone to talk to. And before it was that social media is only for Gen Z, but now this is being consumed by everyone. So do you think there is a need where, I'm not talking about ban, of course, but do you think there is a need of some kind of policy where what is being consumed can be, in terms of policy?
I don't think so. When you keep something away from young people, they become more curious about it. This is my experience to a near 18-year-old son's mom. And you cannot and you should not tell your children that this is a no access zone for you, because that just makes them more curious. What we can do instead is, again, have a conversation with them. Make them understand that not everything you see online is true. This is an ocean of information, and most of this information is not true. How do you teach them to pull out that bit which is true? How do you teach them to distinguish between a real person's real life issue and something which is AI generated? And the same applies to our parents as well. And we are that generation in the middle which is trying to manage and balance both. But in my experience as a mother, conversation works best. Let him be comfortable enough to come to me and tell me, this is what I saw, this is my opinion on it. I could be wrong, but this is what I think. And I should have the strength and the wisdom to listen to his point of view. I think what the government is doing in terms of policy is ensuring that there is an AI mark on videos now. That is important. So when you see a video, you need to know if that is a real person speaking, or it is an AI generated video, or it is a deep fake video, because misuse of deep fake is so much, and now steers into a space which can be criminal, which can be damaging for you forever. That is how scary and criminal it can be when it comes to pornography. So much of it is AI generated, it is scary, but how does a child know whether it is real or it is AI generated? So this can come from a policy point of view, but when it comes to regulating the content your child consumes or anyone else in your family consumes, I don't think that is the way to go. Only awareness is the way to go. That curiosity shouldn't be at a point, and ma'am, I'll use this example. Maybe some 8, 9, 10 years ago, there was a game called the Blue Whale game. And it was horrifying. And as a mother, it scared me that there could be a space online which is so dangerous, which is so scary, which can end in the even death of your child, because the kid is getting brainwashed and a parent has no way of figuring out how that is happening. So that's when I understood every single thing, discussing their sexuality, discussing whether they feel alone or isolated in any manner, discussing the pressure they feel with academics in school, in college, with admissions, with jobs, discussing their relationship problems, because even that exists at this age. That discussion is what opens doors, not regulating the content that they consume.
Thank you so much. So Arindam has told me to wrap up. Thank you so much, Pragya. But
Thank you, ma'am.
But I would request the audience, if you could question, if you have any questions which is related to the theme. Related to the theme.
Ma'am, actually, while this whole discussion was happening, I was thinking, how effective are the civil society movements, and this improvement of women's status, this woman empowerment movements? How important are they in policy framing that are more gender equal?
Thank you. I think that's not a very straightforward question, because civic society has been a part of movements for decades now. For example, women reservation. For as long as I can remember, since I was in school, this movement has existed. But today, does that mean we have equal representation in parliament? We don't. We don't. But at the end of the day, it is because of this civil society movement that this is even being discussed in parliament. So maybe sometimes the movement is slow, but you at least get things moving because you're talking about it. In every single aspect, this is true. And sometimes the movement can be reverse also. Sometimes the movement can start because the Prime Minister of the country has said a certain thing. For example, when he says, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and I'm going to click a selfie with my daughter. And when he clicks that selfie, puts it out with that hashtag, and the gender ratio in states start changing because of that pride a family has started feeling in their daughter, I think then it can also be that top-down approach.
Anyone has any question? Any student?
From this side, ma'am. We are not visible.
You can get this mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give the mic.
Hello, ma'am. It was wonderful listening to you. My question to you is, India is definitely opening up different spaces for women inclusion, especially in politics. How do you ensure that the influence it has on policy decisions are meaningful and just not symbolic?
I love that. Because politics is a reflection of society. Politics is not in isolation. And how does our society stand today? Our society today stands at a place where only 7% of people in the higher judiciary are women. It's only 7%. Less than 6% of surgeons in our country are women. You take gynacs aside, it'll be even lesser. The number of CEOs leading major companies is again around 4%. Whichever sector you look at, even when we talk about the participation of women in the workforce, the numbers are dismal. Yes, they are rising, but they're still small. So women in bureaucracy, women in politics, all of it is very similar because all these professions are reflection of society. So everything changes when I believe women are sitting on that decision-making table. So we must not strive to just get women into assemblies and parliament. We have to strive to make sure our girls feel comfortable enough taking up spaces which were originally considered a man's domain. Journalism, tell me how many editors-in-chief in our country are women? Apart from Navika Kumarji, I can't come up with another name. Think and tell me how many famous senior advocates are women. You can count them on your fingertips of one hand. So what we need to do as society, as parents, as young people, we have to make sure we occupy spaces which we have been told for the longest time don't belong to us. When we occupy all these spaces, I think politics is going to reflect it. We are trying for a reservation, absolutely. That reservation will come by, absolutely. But everything will accelerate when women are represented at every room, on every table, on every dais. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? Yeah.
This is a question based purely on as a viewer of daily television, nothing academic about it. When we see panel discussions, including many people like you participate, what I feel is the substance of the significant points that many of you make very powerful and forceful somehow always gets lost in the political framing of the debate. So we end up thinking, oh, that is this party's view. So the polarization loses the substantive nature of very learned people like you who have much more to contribute. What do you think of that? I mean, is the problem with the television and its framing, or is the problem that you are forced to take a position because you are called to kind of, balance the perceptions in the society? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Yes, television has a format. There is always a for the motion and against the motion kind of a debate that exists. But on certain topics, I don't believe a debate can happen. On certain topics, you can only have a discussion. When it is a topic of national security, when it is a topic of women's safety, when it is a topic which concerns the future of our children, when it is a topic which concerns disaster management, all of these issues, I believe, cannot have a debate. How can you have a debate on these issues? You can only have a discussion, put your point forward, and I wish more and more people wanted to have a discussion instead of a debate, because polarization is so big right now that even issues which don't need to be politicized get politicized, and that's very unfortunate. You cannot be political vultures on tragedy. You cannot be political vultures when it comes to the image of your country, especially when it is abroad. So all these things, I believe, I take a firm stand on, and I would urge everyone else to also do the same. There are some things which are sacrosanct, some things which are above polarization, some things which are above politics.
Any more questions? I can't see at the back if there is anyone. No. So thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would request you to please present this certificate.
Thank you, sir.
To ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
You were talking about Blue Whale. I was thinking about Momo, that other game, instigating people. Can I invite the dignitaries on the first row to please come up? We'll have a picture. Please, Ashun, Shobituli.